But where do you see podcasts in, like, let's say 3 to 5 years from now?
I think it's such a great format. You're seeing now everyone is starting podcasts. Everyone wants to have a podcast. It's
Mhm.
such a wonderful way to connect with your audience, with your friends, with your customers, with your clients. And we're still early in it, Zlatko.
It's not easy to grow a community, man. It's not easy to grow a community, man.
It takes time. It takes time, but it's one of those things where like it, that you get more challenges as it grows, but in some ways, growth just gets easier as it grows because of the network effect. So like it just becomes more valuable the bigger it gets.
We also have some very like design principle driven clients, which I really love working on that kind of stuff just because not only is it beautiful, not only does it feel good, but you can see results in it as well. You end up really like being able to see like, wow, this works. There's a reason that simple one CTA, but making it like really pretty and reflecting kind of that, how does this design make me feel idea behind design? It works and it produces conversions, and that's the goal in marketing.
I think this is the beginning of a large amount of layoffs. And I think, especially in the tech industry, on the freelance side, okay, if you're laying off 10, 20% of your workforce, you're still going to need marketing talent. You're still going to need a PPC expert. And that's not going anywhere. You're going to need a shop.
Did you guys start hiring pretty quickly after you raised that funding and all that?
Yeah, I mean, hiring was probably the hardest thing
Yeah.
as part of this. We did start hire. So yeah, it was James and myself early on. We had support from a few team members that kind of came in and out. A lot of people, this sounds terrible to say, think they want to be entrepreneurs and they realize the kind of work and effort it takes.
Of course.
It just doesn't
That's
work
a
out. And
truthful
that's
thing.
okay.
That's not even a bad thing. That's a truthful thing to
Yeah.
say, because there's a lot of
And
people.
yeah. Right, and that doesn't demean. I don't mean that to demean them or in any other fashion. It's just fact, and it's also it's a form of like right place, right time. Like there's circumstantially it has to be the right time. One of the team members that joined early on that didn't last long. They had a child, and the child had some complications at birth, so he needed to step away.
Right.
Others, took too much time commitment away from their family. So it's very circumstantial the way I think about it. But yeah, we started bringing on team members throughout the process. And that was hard. That was really hard because, everybody always tells you it's hard, but then you're like, oh yeah, I would never hire that person if I was in those shoes. But when you're in those shoes and you're trying to solve problems and you're just trying to move fast and figure it out, sometimes you don't do the proper diligence and you make some mistakes.
I would like to mention that I see more pillars in the growth of young startups, especially now. For example, with community, I would say that there is a difference between community and audience, because on Twitter and LinkedIn, we have audiences. But when you bring these audiences in-house via Circle or Slack or you actually own this audience. It's a community. If Twitter disappears overnight, you lose all of your audience, but having them in-house, it's different, and you build connections differently. Second pillar is I'm seeing more and more SaaS companies, even the young ones or even the smaller ones, in terms of revenue, they're moving from inbound marketing to media marketing. They're building media products. I mean, since you like Webflow, for example, you know about the Webflow TV. Okay, it's a huge company that built a media brand. Like Profitwell, they built Recur Media, or how it's called. It's also a media brand. And third is the personality of putting a face on the company. For example, last week I recommended 2 SaaS companies because of their founder. Because I follow them on Twitter, I know what they're doing, the transparency level of the company. And it's the Social Sprout Index data shows that people care about founders being out there, being active on social media. It doesn't matter if they're building in public or if they're just sharing their insights, thought leadership.
The other thing that's really important with what we do that ties back to that as well is our entire motto, for lack of a better term, is that we want to turn data into action. And so everything that we're focused on is how do we take data and make it into action. And so we do that, one, by providing insight. And so we're constantly looking at how do we provide more insight, give better understanding of what this data actually means. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a data team, you can look at the responses to a question and you may or may not actually understand the impact of that. So one, how do we surface better insight? But then two, how do we take the data in real time and turn it into action? And
so what if you were to be reset today, 0 back to Twitter 0, goose egg, the game is over, you lost all your followers, what's your number one strategy right now?
If you reset me to 0, there's two things that you haven't reset me on. One is my ability to write.
There we go.
Yeah, and two is my people. If you said start from 0 was the fastest way to get up there, I would probably look at everyone's thread and just take the best threads and just study what makes those best threads and then try to replicate them.
What sort of changes are you guys seeing in the content world at the moment?
I think the inevitable change that's going to happen is the importance of video. It's already here. It's just how much more important does it become? One of the things is, and you've probably seen this, right? Even yourself or people out there, when you do a Google search, occasionally you might get recommended like a certain segment of a YouTube video. So it'll be like, at 1:40 to 2 minutes, 10 seconds, like this is the answer to your question. So as Google gets better at indexing video and identifying content that answers questions within it, that's going to be a massive shakeup.